What's the difference between all those progressive kind of steps that some teachers lead people through? Like, how does that interrelate with this kind of direct knowledge?
It's interesting. The relationship is quite ironic. This direct path is quite a bit more effective for people who've gone through the progressive path. So the people who've tried everything and found it not to work, or to lead them to a certain sticking point they can't get past, at that point the direct path is quite effective. But if you come to it from never having done anything, then it can seem altogether too abstract. Here's a good example. A lot of this direct path work or enterprise, whatever happens in the direct path, is very contemplative, or it's experiential. And it requires the mind be a little bit stable. If the mind's too jumpy, then some of these insights are very, very, very subtle. And the mind won't be available for them to understand these things if the mind is jumping around. So if a person has done lots of devotional work, chanting, or traditional meditation, they call placement meditation, then the mind is a lot more able to stay on one track. And a lot of these things, for example, if you're trying to discern the difference between what about you as the subject and what about you as the object, that can get pretty subtle. And so if your mind can stay with it, in fact, it's so subtle that sometimes it's said it's a higher reasoning or beyond the mind. But in any case, if you're worrying about did I leave the water on at home? Or we're worried about paying the bills, or you're jumping to other things, then you won't be available for that particular pursuit. So in that case, those meditations can help. But it's not that those meditations put you there, they don't achieve the same thing that this realization of being consciousness itself do. Or that realization does what they don't do. They just prepare you to be able to do it effectively. Because if you look at this, it is pretty contemplative.
Is it an experience, kind of an experience of light, or an experience of some sort of kind of super conscious experience?
Is what?
This
experience.
This knowing yourself as awareness or consciousness.
It can seem to happen at a point in time, and something that might demarcate that point in time could be called an experience. But it's more like pulling the cover off something that was there, or not that you're pulling it off, but say you're looking at something and all of a sudden the cover comes off and you're seeing what was underneath the cover. And there's a real deep sense that which was underneath the cover was there all the time. That might be accompanied by something that seems like a flash of light or an implosion of the universe or something like that. Some stories are more dramatic than others, but it doesn't require any of those to happen at all. In fact, it seems like an experience beforehand, but after it doesn't seem like an experience. So there's almost as though you're on top of a ladder and almost have a foot in both camps. Before, you're thinking about an entity going through time and achieving something, and then you take that foot off and the other foot, now it seems timeless. It doesn't seem like there was anything other than experience itself. Not an experience that comes and goes, but just experience itself without any borders or demarcations. So then, maybe you go back and learn experience talk in order to communicate to someone, but it doesn't seem like a real discrete experience. So I know there are a lot of dramatic stories out there, but there's some stories that aren't too dramatic too. There's a difference between, there's the old Zen stories about you can get wet by being in a rainstorm, or you can get wet by being in a mist that lasted all night. But in either case, at the end, you'll be equally wet.